Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a problem that, let's be honest, drives us all a little crazy. Why is my computer so slow? We're gonna play detective, follow the clues, and finally crack the case.
You know the feeling, right? That exact moment you're trying to get something done and your machine just stops. You get that spinning wheel of doom, the screen freezes up. It's just so frustrating. But what is actually happening under the hood?
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with those obvious symptoms, then define the real culprit, what's called a bottleneck. After that, we'll hunt down the three big ones: the data traffic jam, the memory scramble, and the physical limit of heat. And finally, we'll talk about how you can find the bottleneck on your own machine.
All right, let's get our investigation started. And like any good detective, we're gonna begin at the scene of the crime, looking for the most obvious clues first. A lot of the time, the first suspects are hiding in plain sight. These are just a few of the common Windows services that are meant to be helpful but can end up being serious resource hogs, just quietly eating up your computer's power in the background without you even knowing it. But here's the twist. Those background processes, they're just the symptoms. They aren't the real disease. They all point back to one single core concept that explains pretty much every computer slowdown you'll ever have.
And that big idea is the bottleneck. In software engineering, this just means that your entire system, no matter how fast or expensive the other parts are, can only run as fast as its single slowest component. It is literally the weakest link in the chain.
And this analogy just explains it perfectly, doesn't it? You can have this huge 2-liter bottle of water, but you can only pour it out as fast as that tiny little neck will allow. Your computer works the exact same way. So let's investigate our first major type of bottleneck. I want you to picture a massive traffic jam, a total gridlock, happening right inside your machine. The fastest parts are just stuck, honking their horns, waiting for the slowest ones to catch up.
This is what the pros call being I/O bound. Now, I/O just stands for input-output. See, a CPU-bound task is when your processor is working at full speed, just crunching numbers. But an I/O-down task, well, that's when your super-fast processor is basically just sitting around, twiddling its thumbs, waiting for data to crawl in from a much slower part, like an old hard drive.
And get this is the really wild part. You'd think a faster CPU would fix things, right? But it can actually make this specific bottleneck even worse. The faster your processor gets, the more time it spends just waiting around. It's kind of like having a Formula One engine in a car with flat tires. All that power and nowhere to go. Okay, on to our next bottleneck. This one happens when your computer is trying to juggle way too many things at once, but it doesn't have enough memory to do it. It leads to this desperate scramble that just brings everything to a grinding halt.
This horrible condition is called thrashing. And trust me, it feels just as violent as it sounds. When your computer runs out of its fast memory, the RAM, it starts using your slow hard drive for storage instead. If it has to do this too often, it gets stuck in this vicious cycle of just moving data back and forth, instead of actually doing any work.
And the effect is just staggering. Look at this. When a computer is thrashing, your task manager might say, the CPU is at 100%, but it's busy doing practically nothing useful. It could be spending 95% of its time just shuffling data around, leaving a tiny 5% for the stuff you actually want to get done. It's busy being busy.
So, we've covered the digital stuff, data traffic jams and memory scrambles, but our next clue is all physical. Sometimes your computer slows down simply because it's running a fever.
If you were to crack open a modern computer, you'd see a complex web of copper pipes and fans, just like this. And its one and only job is to get heat away from the processor as fast as possible. Because believe me, high-performance chips get incredibly hot.
So here's the critical thing you need to know. If that cooling system can't keep up, maybe it's clogged with dust or you're just pushing it too hard, the computer will protect itself. It does something called thermal throttling, which is just a fancy way of saying it slams on the brakes to cool down. Your slowdown isn't a bug, it's a feature to stop the hardware from literally melting.
Okay, so we've met the main villains: the data traffic jam, the memory scramble, and the digital fever. Now for the important part. How do we turn all this theory into action and figure out which one is causing trouble on your machine?
Well, a great place to start is with those usual suspects we talked about at the beginning. For example, if you open up your task manager and you see that Windows Search is just constantly churning away, you can follow these exact steps to turn it off. For a lot of people, especially with older hard drives, this one simple fix can make a huge difference. But here's the single most important thing to remember from all of this. Your computer's performance isn't about one single part. It's a system.
It's a team sport. A crazy fast CPU is totally useless if it's always waiting on a slow hard drive. Tons of memory won't help one bit if your processor is overheating. It's all about how the parts work together.
And that brings us to this really powerful idea from the people who study this stuff for a living. The title of one of their research papers says it all. The cure is in the cause. As soon as you stop just getting angry at the symptoms, the lag, the freezing, and you start to diagnose the root cause, the actual bottleneck, that's when you're on the path to a real solution.
Which really leaves us with one final question for you. The next time your computer starts to slow down, don't just get frustrated with it. Stop and ask yourself, is my processor stuck in a data traffic jam? Is my system in a frantic memory scramble? Or is it just running a digital fever? Because once you understand the cause, you're halfway to the cure.